Hi guys, welcome to my back porch. I have an iced coffee and a desire to talk today. It's been a while since we've made a video on my back porch. I think the last time we did that was the recycling bag video. But it's a nice place to sit and chat. Now today is not going to be a fun video. It's not going to be a video full of energy because I don't have any energy left. This is a video that I've been meaning to make for quite a while, but I've been putting it off because I kept thinking things would get better, and they never do. They just seem to get worse. And I knew it came to a head this morning because I put the black pepper in the fridge instead of the milk. And when I did that, I suddenly thought, you know what? It's time to talk about this. It's time to talk. So grab a brew and settle down, because I don't think I'm the only person in Kigali suffering with this. I think as the city grows, which is a good thing, you know, it's growing, it's developing, but as that's happening, the quality of life for a lot of people is becoming quite difficult. And of course, I'm talking about noise. Let's get into it. So just to give you a little bit of history, I have lived in my house now in Kachiru for over 10 years, and when I moved in, all of the area down in the valley was wetlands. It was lovely. You'd go to sleep at night, you'd hear the crickets, you'd hear the frogs. We had so many frogs, you'd hear those. It was like a lovely nighttime evening symphony that you could drift off to, except for probably about one bar that everybody knew that just would not turn down the volume. You know, I've spoken about this before. We have a lot of unique problems in Kigali because it is, you know, Rwanda is the land of 1,000 hills. So every house is pretty much on a hill divided by valleys. So you get bars down in the valley. So the whole valley acts like an amphitheatre, kind of amplifying that music up through the houses. Or you can be on a hill over here, and there's another hill over here, and they're blasting music, and it goes straight across the valley into your home, because as I mentioned many times before, most houses here have breeze blocks as ventilation. So you just have holes from the inside of your house to the outside of your house. So there is nothing between you and music. Your house is basically a tent at Reading Festival when the bars kick off. And so that was a problem, and it would happen maybe 2 or 3 times a week, usually on the weekend, but especially in Rwanda, I've noticed there's not really a distinction between weekend and working week. You're as likely to get woken up by a bar on a Wednesday or a Thursday as you are on a Friday or a Saturday. Sundays are very popular as well, which of course is a bit weird coming from somewhere like the UK, because Sundays is the wind down time. You're getting ready for the working week on Monday, so it's usually a bit quieter. But here, there's not really much of a distinction. But there was one bar, and you know, that's when it really started. I've been living here for a couple of years, and really the bar noise was starting to pick up. But then what happened was the residential house next to us around 2017, it got turned into a charity. Well, it got rented out by a charity who turned it into what was supposed to be a cafe to raise money for a street children's charity. Really good intentions, great idea. But the idea and the reality didn't match up. What actually happened was 2 young blokes who were running it, one of them moved into the property and turned it into a late night bar. I mean, they were posting adverts like this. That ain't a charity event. And you know, they've taken it down now, so I didn't take a screenshot, but they were posting on Facebook like of the late night parties they were having. Some nights, 4 o'clock in the morning, the noise was so loud that my windows would rattle. So at that point I got the police involved, and you know, they were quite helpful, but it did take 5 months of writing letters to the council, to City Hall, of, you know, going and talking to City Hall, of going and talking to Rwanda Governance Board, who monitor charities. You know, they're the charity registration place, and saying, look guys, I appreciate that their work is good, But this part of what they're doing is not charitable work. This is just young lads having a blowout whenever they feel like it and turning a residential street into a nightclub. And of course they were using that excuse of, but we're a charity, we can't be doing anything wrong, to kind of make me appear like a bad person for complaining about it. But I work with charities. I've worked with charities my entire professional life, and so I'm not really intimidated by that line, because I know, you know, what is legitimate non-profit work and what is just like not acceptable. And yeah, so I mean, eventually they got told to close that part of it, but it took 5 months of asking for help from City Hall, from police, and eventually it did get shut down, but it took an entire community meeting. There were at least 40 members of the local community had to come, and the meeting was entirely conducted in Kinyarwanda, which was fine. I don't speak Kinyarwanda, but I was fine. I didn't need to speak, you know, because the facts had presented themselves. But also, the lad who had moved into the property was diaspora, and he didn't speak Kinyarwanda either. So we were kind of on a level playing field there. But I was really lucky because I have some neighbours who, I mean, honestly, my neighbours are just wonderful, really, really wonderful people, and they came and backed me up, and they said, yeah, this is not acceptable. So, you know, I was represented by my community and people on my street. And yeah, so that all happened. And then around about the same time, I'll have to check, but there was a whole redevelopment thing happened here. They were redeveloping King Faisal Hospital, and they were building a whole load of main roads, and they were building it through the night. But in the run up to this, the town council or somebody has decided to build this diversion road, like this bypass at the end of my street. And they've decided that what they're going to do is they're going to do it overnight. So every night from about 9 until 4 o'clock in the morning, every night for weeks, all you get to hear is this. So, you know, I've tried everything. I'm on Nitol at the moment, but it is so loud, it even pulls me out of my drug-induced coma. And that's why I've got these bags starting to form under my eyes, and I am struggling to remember my name. So they were starting at 10:30 at night, going on to 4 in the morning sometimes. And that's the point at which I really came the closest that I've come until now to breaking point, where I just thought, you know, my mental health is suffering. It's like I say, you know, it's when you start doing things like putting the black pepper in the fridge, and when you wake up and you realise that you're not safe to drive. It's like today, I planned, I've got some editing to do, I plan to drive out, find a really nice cafe on my bike, have a lovely Sunday afternoon, enjoy the sunshine, the quiet roads. And I woke up and I thought, I'm not safe to get on a motorbike. I'm not safe to get behind a wheel because I'm putting black pepper in the fridge. So anyway, so all of that happened, but still, you know, we'll get into why I haven't moved later on. But after the charity moved to another property, it was taken over by this lovely, lovely restaurant. They used to do the most amazing falafel wraps, which I used to order quite often, and they were so quiet, so lovely, brilliant neighbours, but couldn't make the money, not enough people were coming, so they moved out. When they moved out, around the same time, 2 things happened that just absolutely buried me in problems. So the first thing that happened, the first really awful thing that happened, is there's a little grocery shop opposite my house, directly opposite my house. And for years it was run by this really lovely elderly couple. Well, not elderly, but like older, upper middle-aged couple. And they were just lovely, and I'd go over there, I'd buy my milk, I'd buy some vegetables, give them my paper bags when I had too many. They were just a really nice couple. But they sold up and they moved on. And the person who bought it wasted no time at all in turning it into his personal late night bar. But it kind of went from, you know, there being a disturbance sort of 2 or 3 times a week from bars across the valley to there being now a disturbance pretty much every night of the week. And the thing is, they don't start until, you know, sometimes 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They've started at 3 o'clock in the morning before. So you go to bed, and this is the bit that just kills you, is you go to bed and it's beautifully quiet, silent, like it used to be when everything was wetlands. And then you're pulled out of your sleep. Like, this is pre-recorded, so you're seeing this a little bit later down the road, but this is what happened to me last night. So it's 2:30 in the morning. This is next door, blasting music, and this drunken guy just shouting like nobody's business. I had a car alarm going off. It's just not the bar over the road, it's these guys. They just don't stop. And this is just an example of stuff that happens all the time, and it's been getting worse and worse. Like a couple of weeks ago, there were about 10 people outside my gate, standing against my gate at 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I tried to, you know, make my presence felt and suggest in no uncertain terms that maybe it was time to go to bed, I got this guy going, "Oh, Mzungu, I'm your neighbour, Mzungu." And I'm like sitting there thinking, "No, mate, you're not my neighbour. Technically you live next door to me, so you are my neighbour geographically. But in terms of neighbourliness, no, you're not. Like, you don't care a bit about anybody else on the street, you know. So don't come at me saying, 'Oh, neighbour, this is just our way, you know, this is our culture.' It's not your culture, it's alcoholism. I'm sorry, I know this because we have exactly the same in the UK. You know, this is not a disturbance by a few kids stumbling home from a club late at night and not turning the volume down. This is people my age and older sitting on the steps of a bar getting absolutely rat-arsed night after night after night, and just having no awareness or no concern for anybody else around them. It's not Rwandan culture. They try and say, "Oh, but Mzungu, but it's just our culture." It's not Rwandan culture, it's alcoholism. Or it's, you know, at the very least, it's a complete lack of empathy for anybody living next door. So don't pull the neighbour card on me, because that is not about being a neighbour. And I'm spouting off and I'm getting that annoyed about it because I haven't had any sleep. I'm shaking, I haven't had any sleep. I'm so broken by tired at the moment. It really is just getting to me. I'm lucky if I get 4 hours sleep a night nowadays. Sorry, I probably shouldn't be. I wanted to make this video when I was all calm, but I'm not calm. I'm not calm at all, and I don't know how to reclaim that right now. But anyway, where were we? So yeah, so the bar across the road was a thing. And at around the same time, the nice quiet little place next door got taken over by a very well-known and quite big business, like quite a well-backed, well-liked business who do good work. But they turned the house into a workshop, like a carpentry workshop, and you know, they've got a lot of buzzsaws like zzz. And for the first few months of them moving in, and it was several months, they were building an extension for like a cafe, and every day you just got this. Now, I didn't know that this was a temporary project. You know, after about 5 or 6 weeks, I'm thinking this is like the new norm. So I did ask for some assistance from local authorities who would help me out when the nightclub moved in. And they had a chat and came back and said, oh, well, you know, they're just building this thing and then it will stop. So they carried on for a few more weeks. And then it did go quiet for a while. Actually, quite a while. It wasn't bad. But then it all really kicked off at the beginning of this year. So really, since January this year, both the bar across the road and this place have been on overdrive. So they started with the buzzing again. It's not as difficult as I thought. Sorry, this is my life at the moment. My neighbours are building something. Hold on a minute.
12 seconds later.
At least they don't start too early in the morning.
3 weeks later.
There we go. No.
Later.
So, this is my day every day now.
6 months later.
I've actually forgotten what I was saying. Doesn't matter. Welcome to Kigali, where everybody's building all of the time. It's just insane. I think it's sawing metal, but somebody told me it's welding, but I don't know, it sounds like metal sawing to me. But yeah, whatever. Whatever it is, the result is the same. And they were just buzzing away. And again, I was thinking, well, is this like a temporary thing? So I didn't say anything for a good couple of months because I thought, oh, maybe they're just building another extension. But they weren't. It just went on and on and on. And combined with that, sometimes, like last night, 2:30 in the morning, sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, they'd just start blasting music. So you've got all of that noise, and then there was another element that was added to this, which is even more disturbing really for me, is they started spraying chemicals. I think it's spray paint, but I'm not exaggerating when I say some days I'd step into my garden and it was like you were just huffing a board marker. You know, the whole of my garden stank of chemicals and you could see it drifting over the wall. There's spray painting chemicals and the whole of my house just smells of chemical. There's like no protection in residential areas against, you know, chemicals and sprays. You can see clouds of it. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but just at the corner of the wall on the roof, there's just white mist rising up. And it's collecting in my house because my house is lower than that. It's just a cloud of chemicals coming into my home. And the thing is, I'm not even the closest neighbour to that building. In between me and them, there is another little building, a local family living there, and you know, they must be getting more than I'm getting. And I want to be a bit careful about this because I can't prove it. I need to say this straight now. I cannot prove what I'm about to say. But since the beginning of this year, I have had to take I'm asthmatic, and I had to take my asthma inhalers more this year than I have in the past 3 years. Like, I'm very mildly asthmatic, so I will take my inhaler a couple of times in the wet season. Usually fine, usually don't need any preventative inhaler like the disc inhaler. But the beginning of this year, I had to take a disc inhaler every day, and I was taking my salbutamol regularly, like at least once a day. And I also have a cat with asthma, which is actually a thing that can happen. And she has been having more attacks this year than I have ever seen. And I cannot say that it's because of the spraying next door. I can't, because I can't prove it. But I would say I would not be surprised if it was because of that. So anyway, I mean, some days it's literally, you just smell it in the air. So it got to this point where, you know, I'm getting no sleep at night and I'm worried about these chemicals. So what I do is I contact Rima, which is, I think it's Rima. I always get it confused with there's Rima and Rura. Is it Rura or Rima? I need to check. But they're the department in charge of air quality and noise pollution. And so I got them involved, and I got the local authorities involved again. And they turned up with the head of Umudugudu. So I need to explain how things are supposed to work here. So where you live in Kigali is broken down into district, sector, cell and village. And village is like the smallest level. And sort of each village is kind of run by the head of Umudugudu. So your Umudugudu is your village, and you have like a community council. And sometimes it's a woman, sometimes it's a man. I think here we've got both at the moment. Often if you're wandering around town and if you see a gentleman with a wide-brimmed hat, or a wide-brimmed hat and a stick, then that's usually somebody quite important. That's usually a sign of importance, and they're usually a head of Umudugudu or some other council. So everybody turned up at my house. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting like a visit from I need to check. Is it Rura or Rima? Hold on. Yeah, Rima, the environmental agency. Glad we got that ironed out. Yeah, so there was a lovely lady came from Rima, and you know, they had a good talk with the workshop. And, you know, she came up to me and she said, you know, so it's a noise problem that you're worried about. And I'm like, well, it's the noises and the chemicals, like air pollution and noise pollution. And I kind of got the impression, I might be wrong, I kind of got the impression that really only the noise was a major concern for them. But she looked at me, she said, right, well, it ends today, she said. No more. From today, no more. And I cannot tell you the relief that washed through me when she said that. I was honestly, I was so relieved just to have somebody on my side, you know, because I felt like I'd just been battling for the right to have a night's sleep and that, you know, I was on my own. And for 2 nights, well, 2 days, perfect, absolutely silent. And then it started again. Daytime mostly, but the thing is, you know, when noise kicks off at night, you can't sleep. But imagine that drilling all day. Imagine it all day. It's like living in a dentist's office. You cannot work, you cannot think straight, you cannot watch a movie, you cannot listen to music. It's just zzz, continuous. And so, yeah, I contacted the authorities again, and they came back and said, oh, well, they've got some stuff to finish up. I think they said it'll be done in like 2 days. 2 days it'll be finished. But it wasn't. It just kept going on and on and on. And the spraying on and on and on. I'm going to go off on a tangent. I know I've thrown so many complaints at you so far, but I've got one more to add to this list. What the hell is wrong with Toyota cars? They have got a defect, or at least the ones that they're importing to Rwanda have got a defect. And the reason that I say this, I'm going to lay out my working out here, is because a couple of months ago I had to ask for help again from the authorities because there was a Toyota parked on my street, and I'm not kidding you, you only had to look at it and the alarm went off. I mean, it was so sensitive, a bird could fart from 3 streets away and it would go off. And it went off constantly all day, just like, and so I had to ask for some help because, you know, like, it's a horrible thing to say the car alarm goes off if somebody's stealing a car, but you almost wish that somebody would steal it so that you didn't have to listen to it anymore. It was just continuous. And also, what is the point of a car alarm that goes off continuously? Because literally, it's like the boy that cries wolf, you know, it does it once and you look, and it does it twice and you think, oh, is anybody stealing it? It does it constantly, like, nobody even pays it any attention anymore. It has no purpose anymore because, like, it's not alerting anybody to anything. So anyway, moving on. So about 3 nights ago, somebody parked another Toyota, exact same model. When I first saw it, I thought it was the same car, and it isn't, different registration, exact same problem. It went off for 2 hours straight. It would stop for a maximum of 2 seconds and off it went again. And I had to sit there listening to that for 2 hours. And based also on the situation that I hadn't had more than about 4 hours sleep in days, and I had to sit there and listen to that all evening. And then when I went to the ladies' women's biker day, I was setting up for that and preparing for that and helping with the seating, and all of a sudden I heard the exact same car alarm going off, and I didn't see the car, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that was the Toyota again. I know that car alarm anywhere. So I don't know what the problem is with Toyota cars, because I haven't seen any other cars doing this to that extent, but it seems that there is a fault with the car alarms in Toyotas. They just do not stop going off. Anyway, moving on, but also, sorry, not moving on. Also, I don't understand how you have a car like that and you park it outside your own house. How do you sleep through the night? How do you not hear that? How do you not wake up going, oh yeah, I should probably fix my car? You know, how does that not bother you when it's waking everybody else up? Anyway, yeah, I need more. I don't need more sleep. I need some sleep. So, okay, where did we get to? Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do now because I feel like I've exhausted every avenue. You know, I think the police are fed up of hearing from me. I think they just see me as a nuisance now when I send them a message at 2:30 in the morning going, look, guys, you know, and they keep saying, oh, well, it's okay because the bar's going to shut down soon. Well, great, but when? When is it shutting down? Because I think next door, clearly, they're not making any effort to lower their noise level because nothing ever happens to them. There's no consequences. And I'm annoyed at them for being so dismissive of the other people who live in the neighbourhood, of not like caring about anybody else's quality of life. But I do also understand that they're running a business and they need to, you know, do their business and make money. Honestly, if I have to place my annoyance anywhere, like my real it's at the local council, it's at the planning department. Because when you look at this area on the planning map, it's entirely residential, or at least it says it's entirely residential. And yet somebody at the planning department must have seen the application for change of use from a residential building to a carpentry workshop. And they must have looked at that, and then they must have looked at the residential zoning and just gone, yeah, f it, go on then. Why not? You know, there's like no enforcement of the zoning regulations. And it's starting to feel a little bit like, it's a strange analogy, but you know those videos where they're cutting into things and everything is cake. It looks like a normal object and then it's cake. Everything is cake. Well, here, in my part of Kigali at least, it feels like everything is bar. You know, there used to be a grocery store next door, now it's a bar. There used to be a health centre up the road, now it's a bar. Everything is bar. And I've heard this from friends who bought a property over the other side of town. where they moved in, and about 3 or 4 years later they had to find somewhere else to live because all of the houses surrounding had become bars. It's just everything is bar. This is Myoga Street behind me. This is, it's just horrible. And and again, you could make the argument, oh well, it's contributing to nightlife, you shouldn't complain, it's contributing to the economy. That ain't contributing to anything. That isn't a nice cultural experience. That isn't, a pleasant bar. That is just a place that, a lot of alcoholics congregate very late at night to drink a lot and scream at each other. There's no benefit to the community from that. And then on top of all of this, to sort of rub salt in the wound, you've got the New Times, which is sort of the biggest paper in Kigali, the English language paper. And every now and again, they take it upon themselves to publish articles telling people why they need to get more sleep. It's hilarious. It's like, who does not understand the biological necessity for sleep? Who's reading that going, oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed to sleep. It feels kind of personally insulting because, I know I need to sleep. I know I'm getting brain damage because I'm not getting any sleep. I'm trying. I mean, I know I'm taking it too personally. It's not aimed at me. It's like a general health notice. But when you're lying there at 3 o'clock in the morning, just having been woken up by your next door neighbours screaming in the street and, sawing metal, and you're reading this going, I need to get more sleep. It's like, anyway, moving on from that, but there's just one more thing to add to it. But anyway, moving on to the logical question. Why haven't I moved? Well, there's a few reasons to this. I have thought about it several times over the years, and I'm going to list the reasons why from kind of like the smallest to the largest. And by the end of it, hopefully you'll understand why I haven't just left. The first one is, it seems like such a small one, but to me it matters. I've got cats, and this is the only home they have ever known, and cats are kind of territorial. They don't do well when you move them. They tend to get lost, they can get injured, and it would be quite distressing for them. And that's not to say I would never move home because of the cats, but I'd have to have a really good reason to. So that is the smallest reason. The second one is that this has been my home for over 10 years and I like it here. I like my house. More than that, I really like my landlord and his family. They have just been outstanding. Best landlord I've ever had, ever. So I like my street, and for the most part I like my neighbours when they're not incredibly drunk and shouting at me at 4 a.m. So I like my neighbourhood, I like the location, I like the house. And also, my landlord's coming up for retirement. If I leave, they don't get my money anymore. If I just up and go, I pay rent to them every month, and that's a chunk of income that they no longer have. So that's quite a big consideration. The third reason that I haven't moved is financial. Moving is expensive. First of all, you've got to pay people here to show you houses. So in Rwanda, if you go and view a house, you've got to pay them. I've done another video about this. So you've got to pay to go and look at houses. You're probably going to have to look at quite a lot of them. Then you've got to pay deposit up front, and usually a few months rent up front. And also you've then got to pay somebody to come and help you move everything. I've got 10 years of stuff in this house. You've got to move everything across town. It's a hassle. I feel tired just thinking about that. I feel tired anyway all of the time because I'm getting no sleep. But the thought of moving is a lot. And it kind of feels like blaming the victim there, you know, because it's like going, oh, I'm sorry, somebody's done something really horrible to you. Well, I think you should pay for that, you know? It's like they move in and do this, and I'm the one who has to pay and uproot my entire life to move. That's harsh, you know? I feel that's unfair. But of course, the big issue then is the final issue, is that even if I did move, there appears to be no real enforcement of zoning regulations or protection of the residential areas. So I could move, and I could pay to move all my stuff and pay the rent, pay the deposit, move into a new home in a new neighbourhood with people I don't know, and there's nothing to stop it happening again. I could move house and within a few weeks another bar could open. It's very likely. You know, another workshop might open up, and I'd be in exactly the same situation I'm in now, somewhere else I probably don't want to be living. So that's my issue there. I mean, what am I supposed to then do? What is anybody facing this issue supposed to do? Are they supposed to just keep paying and moving house and moving house and moving house and hoping that eventually they move into one where this doesn't happen, at least for a while, you know? I don't know. I feel defeated. I'm going to be honest. I feel defeated and extremely tired. And I know that maybe some of what I'm saying doesn't sound very rational, coherent, but I am not capable of coherently expressing myself very easily anymore. I feel like I am suffering mentally and physically. I feel like that scene from The Waking Dead where Daryl gets kidnapped by Negan and he gets like subjected to sleep deprivation and just keeps getting woken up every 5 minutes. You know, every night I go to bed and it seems like it's going to be quiet, it's nice and chill, and then all of a sudden, bang, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, woken up. And then when you do get a quiet night, it's not as simple as just being able to go back to sleep. You get a quiet night and nothing happens the whole night, but your body is so prepared for it that you wake up anyway, you know, or you can't sleep because you're waiting for it to start. It is horrible, absolutely horrible. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say it. I think anybody who's experienced lengthy sleep deprivation knows what this feels like. So yeah, we're coming to the end of my coffee and the end of my rant, but yeah, again, when people say just move, just implies that that's easy, and it really isn't. It's a lot of work, a lot of expense. I mean, there has been a lot of talk that our neighbourhood is scheduled to be knocked down anyway. So maybe it's coming, and I do sometimes wonder, and I know it's irrational and I'm probably wrong about this, but it feels sometimes like there's less of a kind of a focus on making this a nice area because they know that eventually they're just going to knock it down, so why spend too much time on it? So yeah, no real final message on this. I just kind of wanted to share it because I feel like a lot of people I've spoken to are going through something similar. A lot of people I've spoken to aren't going through something quite this extreme, but have definitely experienced similar issues along the way. And I also, you know, the steps that you're supposed to take to get this sorted out is firstly to go to your head of Umudugudu and ask them for help. And if they can't help, you're supposed to go to the police, and then if they can't help, I guess you get REMA involved. I feel like I exhausted all of those options. I now feel like I'm viewed as being, you know, a bit of a pain in the bum because I keep asking for something to be done. And I think it's difficult for people who are not experiencing this level of sleep deprivation to understand the impact it has on your life. But if you're struggling to understand, go and read one of those New Times articles. It'll tell you all about the problems sleep deprivation causes. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop going on about it, but I was going to share this. It's not really a warning to anybody moving here. It's not really a warning other than, you know, go and check your neighbourhood before you move in and make sure that there isn't a workshop or a bar next door. Again, go and see my video that I did about, you know, renting places in Kigali. But yeah, there isn't really any great message to this. I just, It's a sunny day. I had coffee. I felt like I wanted to talk. I'm really tired. So I'm going to go and get the black pepper out the fridge now. And I don't know what I'm doing with my day. Hi guys, welcome back to my porch for a little update. It has been many months since I made the first part of this video. And there have been some developments, but just to explain, that was the third time I tried to make a video explaining the problems that I've been going through. And every time I got it finished, I just kept thinking, oh, is this too complainy? You know, is this going to be a problem if I post about it? And it always coincided with about a 3 to 4 week cessation in noise. So, you know, just as I was getting ready to post it, thinking, yeah, I need to talk about this, the noise would kind of stop for a bit. And I always convinced myself that, you know, that's fine, it's finished now, it's done, it's not going to happen again. And then it always got worse, and then I'd start to make the video again, and then I'd stop making the video again. But I think I've held off long enough now, because at the moment it is just indescribable. So we had a few weeks when it was absolutely delightful. The bar, right, let me start with each of the updates. The bar over the road actually closed. The police guy was correct. It was closing down. The noise stopped, and for 3 weeks straight, oh, it was delightful. It was delightful. I slept so well. And then some new owners took it over. And, you know, for a while, no problem. It was a couple. They reminded me a lot of the couple that originally used to run it. Very, very nice people. And this is the problem I've got, because more recently, the noise has struck up again, and it's turned back into a late night bar that just never seems to close. It isn't quite at the level that it used to be, but it's still a lot. So, you know, most nights it's just a bit of shouting outside in the street. Some nights it's absolutely nuts. So it's 11 o'clock at night, and we've got people having a loud, shouty conversation in the street. So you can get into bed and you can turn off the lights, but you ain't going to be sleeping with this going on. And from previous experience, when you ask people to turn it down, they do for about 20 minutes, and then they have another beer and they start again. Okay, it's 11:30 at night and they're still just shouting. Very drunk. I'm just going to try and ask them. Hi guys, Hello? 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 Guys? Hello? It's very, very late and I'm trying to sleep. Is it possible just to keep it down a little bit? It's very, very late at night. And for me, my bedroom is here and I'm trying to sleep.
I'm sorry, let me tell them.
Can we just, thank you.
Let me tell them.
Thank you very much.
Go home actually.
They don't have to go home, but just to keep it quieter would be very, very...
The reason why I'm telling them to go
Yeah.
there is a level when they have taken something like discussing job issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes the voice go high. And for sure, at night the voice goes...
Well, my bedroom is here, so if it is possible,
Yes.
because it cannot continue like this at this time of night. I mean, it's a residential street, not a bar,
I
you know.
And I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to make my children study, so...
Yeah, I understand, but for me, I also work, and I
get,
also
I get.
need to get some sleep. Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
me control.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the argument I got there is, I have to make money for my children, therefore I must keep my bar open very late at night, and therefore, people drunk and shouting is fine. You know what I mean? It's, you can't do that because everybody on this street works or has something to do tomorrow, or just as a human being, like we have a physical biological need to sleep, so the argument my children need me to keep my bar open late at night, it's a problem. But again, it's zoning regulations. Is that used to be a vegetable shop, and now it is a late night bar where people drink a lot and shout a lot, and there is no way around it. When I first moved to Rwanda, there was a population of 800,000 people roughly, and now there's over 2 million, I reckon, and it's growing real fast, and sound monitoring and restriction just isn't keeping pace with that. So I think there's a limit to how far the city can grow before people just go, nah. You cannot live your life over the age of 35. You cannot live your life day to day like this, with drunken shouting and blasting bars, and it's just constant. A lot of people are feeling exactly the same way, and just as tired by all of this, and wondering what the solution is, because somebody's got to come up with one. The powers that be have really got to put their heads together and come up with something here if Kigali's going to continue to grow. And like I say, I fully understand this guy's got a family to support, but there are kids living on this street and they need to sleep. The problem that I've got is I really like the couple. They're very nice, they're kind of like, hello, we wave at each other, I buy things from the shop. For ages, for years, I didn't go and buy anything from that shop because the guy who ran it was just, I didn't really get on with him. And, so I go back and I buy things from the shop now, and I like them very, very much, except when it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I really need to sleep. So that's happened. And I just, more than anything, again, it's not them that I'm annoyed with, it's the council. It's the council. Why would the police go to all the effort of telling me, don't worry, it's going to get better because we're going to close the bar, it's going to be fine after the bar closes, and then let another bar open at exactly the same location to do exactly the same thing? Why would you do that? Like, what was the thought process? Was there a thought process? The workshop opposite, there's been some good and some bad. They are not sawing things anywhere near as much as they used to. Every now and again they'll have a session. You do occasionally still get it, but at the moment, nowhere near where it was. But I don't know if that was because of Rima or just because they haven't got any work to do at the moment. I fully expect that in a month or two it's going to start again. But the problem that we have is they are still seriously spraying stuff. Some mornings I wake up, I make my cup of tea, and my house stinks. My breathing is still struggling. Like, I've never known it to be this bad. So all day today we've had this humming pump and spray paint, I think, because the whole house this morning was just choking with fumes. It smells a lot better now, so maybe the wind changed direction, but the sound just drills through your brain the whole day. But the problem that you have is, like I said before, I can't prove it's actually specifically whatever they're spraying, because some days you wake up in Kigali, and if you drive up to the hills and you look down across Kigali, because Kigali is in this bowl, and it's just white. Sometimes it's mist, and sometimes I think it's pollution. Our air quality here is really bad, which is weird because we're right up in the hills. So you think, well, if you're at altitude and you're in the hills, you're going to get really fresh mountain air. But like I said, Kigali itself is in a massive dip. There's a lot of dust and a lot of air pollution from vehicles. Like the type of petrol that we get over here apparently is different. I didn't know this before, but apparently it's different to the type of petrol we get in places like the UK, and it's got a lot more particles in it. So the air quality here is regularly really bad, and so it could be next door's spraying that's causing the problem. It could also just be a general rise in building work, a massive increase of the number of vehicles on the road. We've only introduced vehicle emission testing not this year, it's 2026 now. Oh my goodness. Yeah, wake up, darling, wake up. My brain don't function no more. What was I talking about? Yeah, last year, so 2025, we introduced emissions testing, but it's still a brand new concept, and also there's only so much you can test for if the quality of the petrol is always going to have a higher concentration of bits in it. I'm not a scientist. I'm so damn tired. I really am. The big problem that we've got at the moment is now worse than the bar, and it's worse than the workshop, is we've got all night building work. Morning guys, I am editing at 5:40 in the morning because I've been awake since 4:30 in the morning, which is the time that somebody decided it was a perfect opportunity to get some hammering in. There was just constant hammering throughout Kigali. So I was pulled from a wonderful sleep by really loud. I think it's some kind of industrial equipment or machinery, or just somebody with a lot of aggression, you know. Just been hammering away since, I can't even speak anymore, I'm too tired. Been hammering away since 4:30 in the morning.
So it's 2nd of January, it's about 10 past midnight. We've got building works going out this side of the house, so I can't sleep over this side. And we've got drunken people shouting at the bar out the other side.
So at the beginning of this video, I told you a little bit about the time they built a new road, and they built it through the night. It's exactly that again now, and I cannot express the level of distress, because basically it can start, like last night, it was perfectly quiet until 10 o'clock at night when they started that, and then they stopped, and I thought, oh wonderful, I can go to sleep. Went to bed, 1:30 in the morning, the bar opposite kicked off, and then they went quiet and I went back to sleep. 3:30 in the morning, the building began again. And there is nowhere in my house you can escape it. It just rips through the house. It's really, really high pitch, clank, 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 and it goes on for hours throughout the day and then throughout the night. And I mentioned noise cancelling options. So I've got a friend who sleeps wearing those earmuffs that you wear if you've got a jackhammer and you're like and you need the noise cancelling. He sleeps with those on, and he says it works. He's in a slightly quieter area, I think. I've got another friend, he uses the foam earplugs, and whenever anybody leaves the country, all he asks them to bring back is a giant jar of noise plugs. I can't wear noise plugs because I think I've got quite narrow ear canals, so if I put anything in there, no matter how soft it is, I've tried beeswax ones, I've tried manufactured, they're like a foamy substance ones, they're supposed to be comfortable. I've tried the actual foam ones, I've tried every type of earplug you can imagine, but they always hurt my ears and they create buildup of wax. I think I've just got quite narrow ear canals. which you would think would be an advantage, but it's not keeping any noise out at the moment. So I can't use those. So at the moment I have noise cancelling headphones, but the problem that I have is I am a committed side sleeper, which means, you know, I'm happy to sleep on my left side, my right side, no problem. But you can't sleep on your side when you've got headphones on because they're quite chunky. I did attempt to put two pillows together and place the cup of the earphone in the gap between, and that kind of works a little, but no, it's not comfortable. You end up with a neck crink. What happens is I wake up in the night to push off the headphones to roll over onto a more comfortable position, and then I'm waking up again. The good thing is the noise cancelling headphones are amazing. They really do completely cut out the noise, but the active noise cancelling creates a noise of its own. It's like a kind of a low level white noise kind of thing. And sometimes I add to that with a YouTube video of like white noise as well, or like it sounds like you're on an aeroplane and it's just a very steady, continuous sound. But the problem that I found is they are fantastic. They do completely cut out the sound of the building work and the bar. But the problem is that it is still creating a noise, and that's still, for me, it's interrupting my quality of sleep, I feel. Like, even if I fall asleep to that, when I wake up, I never feel like I'm properly, fully rested. So at the moment, I am absolutely broken by it, and I know that sounds dramatic. I haven't slept properly in weeks, and every night you go to bed, and it's not having the agency over your own life. You know what I mean? It's not having the agency to say, I'm going to go to bed now, or I'm going to go to sleep now, because you can't, because you're completely at the mercy of the builders and the bars, and they don't care. They have no interest at all in whether you sleep or you don't. And so that's really my update, and that's why I am actually posting this now, because I thought it was bad back in July, I think it was, when I made the first half of the video. I thought that was as bad as it could get. And then it was quiet for a while, and I thought, oh, thank goodness it's over. But now it is even worse than it was back then, and it is dangerous. Like, I wake up and I can't work. I can't work. Like, what I mean by I can't work is I can't focus on a task. I like try to focus on something and my brain just bleeds out, you know. And like I said before, driving is a problem. I'm not safe when I'm this tired to get into a vehicle and drive it, so it's limiting my ability to do things during the day because I'm getting no sleep at night. This is what I'm living with, this is what I'm coping with. So I'm going to go and drink my tea, finish making this video, and I hope, you know, if you're going through the same thing, I hope, you know, in some way, you know, you're not alone, that we're all kind of coping with this at the moment. And I hope that you get some sleep. Really hope you get some sleep. Hi guys, 2 days after filming that update, I was hospitalised. I'll tell you all about it in the next video.